Okay, my apologies for the delay. Welcome, Chad. With the time being 6:31, I would like to call this meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board would like to start off this meeting with a moment of silence in honor of Doug Brosty, a Francis Hall School District bus driver who we recently lost. We will now move on to special recognitions. Ms. Jen Jones.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. Tonight we'd like to recognize a local nonprofit, the Cottleville Firefighters Outreach, otherwise known as CFO, whose goal is to make our community safer, healthier, and happier. CFO has been working with the Francis Hall School District since 2017. Each year they donate new winter coats to kids in need across the district. And to date they've donated 1,615 coats. They provide $25 fuel cards to local gas stations on the regular so that families facing hardship have the ability to pick up food and necessities. They donated $1,000 to our weekly mobile market to help families during COVID and provided 150 emergency kits to Francis Hall North, which are designed to give classrooms first aid supplies in the event of a disaster. They made Christmas brighter for a number of families in our district, contributing an abundance of toys for our adopted families. And most recently, they surprised 12 Francis Hall teachers by purchasing their entire Amazon wish list, a total of 171 items to support student learning at a total value of $3,500. And the list really does go on and on. I'm going to ask our own Deanna Cruz to join me at the podium to help recognize our guests. Deanna works closely with CFO to identify families in need across the district to make sure that they get the supplies and support they need. Now please join me in giving a great big Francis Hall thank you to the Cottleville Firefighters Outreach for helping our kiddos. From that organization in attendance with us tonight, so I'm going to call them up so they can be recognized individually. So first up, we have firefighter Dan Duker. You want to come to the podium? We have Director Kelly Allen, Director Mary Spatowski, and Executive Director Garrett Ryan. So thank you all so much for all that you do for kids across the district. Thanks so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next. Now I'm going to hand the mic over to Dr. Jessie Altman, and she's going to present our next recognition. Dr. Altman?
Good evening. Francis Howell is proud to announce 3 teachers in the district have earned or renewed their National Board Certification, the highest credential in the teaching profession. The district now has 60 teachers who have achieved this distinction. National Board Certified teachers are highly accomplished educators who meet high and rigorous standards. Like board certified doctors and accountants, teachers who receive National Board Certification have met stringent standards through intensive study, expert evaluation, self-assessment, and peer review. The certification is a voluntary process in which teachers work to advance the quality of teaching and learning. We would like to congratulate Tara Richards as our newest National Board Certified teacher in the district. Tara has been teaching at Francis Howell Middle for the last 15 years. She teaches ELA and geography. She has also been involved in district curriculum writing, and she sponsors the Viking Shield Club at Francis Howell Middle. Congratulations, Tara. Congratulations. A National Board Teaching Certificate is valid for 10 years with the opportunity to renew certification. Renewal is a personal and public statement about a teacher's commitment to the profession and to their students. Accomplished teachers recognize their professional learning and growth never ends. In any given subject and developmental area, best practice and knowledge are constantly evolving. At the same time, changes in technology and policy affect every aspect of education, from the classroom to administration. Francis Howell has 2 National Board certified teachers who have recently renewed their certification. Mindy Resnick is an ELA teacher at Bryan Middle School, where she has taught the last 16 years. Mindy has been a certified National Board mentor for 5 years, and she has facilitated our National Board certified professional development strand in the district for the last 2 years. She also serves on Bryan's Building PD Committee, and she represents FHSD, which she has been a member of the last 16 years on the DPDC committee. Congratulations to Mindy.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And finally, Dr. Jason Becker is in his 18th year in teaching at Francis Howell Central High School. He teaches ELA, and he has also served as Francis Howell Central's head ultimate frisbee coach. Dr. Becker could not be with us this evening, but we congratulate him and we celebrate all 3 of these outstanding educators. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen Jules, who's going to announce our student board rep.
Well, really, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Candy Worley, who's going to introduce our student board rep from Sager Middle School.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Hoven, his Executive Cabinet. I'd like to introduce Ms. Mackenzie Solis as our Board of Education representative this evening from Sager Middle School. Mackenzie is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Britt and began her education in the Francis Howell School District in 7th grade. She is an exceptional student and in her 8th grade year, and her teachers describe her as a role model, a leader amongst her peers, helpful to others, a student with an outstanding work ethic, and a privilege to have in class. Mackenzie enjoys singing and sings in our choir at Sager Middle School. Her favorite class is Industrial Tech. She also is involved in a volleyball club sport with the Missouri Wave Sapphire team. Mackenzie is a student who truly encompasses the Spartan way, and we are honored to have her represent us this evening. Welcome, Ms. Mackenzie. We're excited you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to comment anytime you like. The only thing you really can't do is vote. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for coming. Okay, we will be moving on to the patron comment section of our board meeting. During patron comments, patrons and staff are invited to address the Board of Education. When I call your name, please come to the podium so everyone can hear. The board is interested in hearing the public's concerns and opinions, and we do not respond to comments or questions during the meeting. Questions and concerns will be addressed by Dr. Hoven and other appropriate staff members at a later date. Please remember that comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Per board protocol, comments about personnel matters and remarks about or directed at individual employees or students are not allowed. All right, our first public comment will be Derek Edwards.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Derek Edwards. I'm a physical education teacher, football coach, and club sponsor at North High. It's been proposed that there could be substantial teacher cuts made by the district. As I am new to the district, my career and livelihood could be potentially in jeopardy, which is why I'm here tonight. In education, the most important asset that exists is human capital. Unlike working capital, human capital is intangible and can't be tallied on a ledger. For teachers, this is measured by things such as creativity, ability, wisdom, health, and loyalty. The more those things are nurtured, the more valuable those teachers become. It's a win-win for the district, educators, and most importantly, the kids. The kids, that's what everyone in this room has said was the sole reason for getting into this field. I understand there's a business side to running the school district, and I won't pretend to know what all goes into it. I know it can't be easy. However, we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day, what is best for the kids? During the hiring process, I voiced my biggest fear, losing my tenure and starting over during a pandemic. Then things were said to me that eased my fears. I was told this district sometimes has upward of 100 staff leave each year for various reasons, and they're able to absorb these issues when these things arise. That at Francis Howell, we're a family, we take care of our own. Well, here I am before you. I'm part of your family and I need your help. These are unprecedented times. We've all had to operate in near impossible circumstances, and such times we should respond in extraordinary ways. In the world today, very little makes sense. Our normal has for now been erased. The once smiling faces of our students are now pieces of cloth. Their bright eyes are filled with the worry of the unknown. No dances, no banquets, etc. Yet, we and they persevere together. How do we do it? It's not rocket science, it's quite simple actually. Love, compassion, and grace. By projecting those things onto our kids, it tells them everything is going to be okay. You're going to be all right. You're going to get through this. I'm here and I'll help you. We'll do it together. The word grace sticks out to me. I've sat in so many meetings and been told that we teachers will be shown grace at every turn during this difficult time. Because the work we're doing is important, because the circumstances we're operating in are extraordinary, because we are literally putting our very lives on the line to do this work. What's being considered currently doesn't feel like grace. It feels like I'm 24167. That's my employee number. I'm not a number, I'm a human being. I'm an educator, I'm a football coach, I'm a sponsor, I'm a father. I want you to see me just for who I am and realize the lives that just one person can touch. In life, the numbers don't always add up the way we want them to, but I want you to really think and ask yourself if making the numbers make sense.
Time is up.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Anastasia Hercules.
Good evening. I have a long history with the community. I graduated from Francis Howell, and my mom graduated from Francis Howell before me in 1976. I'm the first in my family to graduate from college. I have gone on to earn a master's degree, a Fulbright scholarship, a national board certification, and I have traveled to over 20 countries in the world. When I came back to Francis Howell, I wanted to give back to the community that gave so much to me. Although I have 10 years of teaching experience and many travels and knowledge and information to share with my students, I have only been at Francis Howell School District for 2 years. So I, too, run the risk of being let go. Schools are not about educating individuals, but about building communities and relationships. Amidst a year of turmoil and change, students need more stability, not less. Larger class sizes and less teachers that feel less support is not what students or teachers or our community needs during these trying times. Teachers this year in this district have been given so much and done everything they have been asked, done more than teachers in other districts have been asked to do. And those teachers, we've done everything that we've been given. What message does it send to our community, to the faith in the St. Charles economy, to parents, to students, to let so many teachers go, or even make non-tenured teachers afraid of losing their job? It seems like a poor thank you indeed. I truly believe this is not who we are as a community, and if it is not who we should be. If there is anything this year has taught us, it is how to be innovative. If teachers can find new ways to teach and reach students, I know that this board can find new and innovative ways
to meet budget shortfalls. Retirement incentives, let people leave voluntarily. Don't make it a forced decision. Reserve funds, the rainy day funds for a reason. And guess what? It's raining. It's pouring. The St. Charles County economy will recover. My fiance is a mortgage banker. The economy is strong. 1 year of lockdowns will recover within 1 year. We do not need to keep these reserve funds and lose up to 30 teachers to meet these shortfalls. We can allow those rainy day funds to be exactly what they're there for. Students need their teachers, and teachers need your support. There's a growing perception that the school board does not listen to the community and teacher concerns. Now is the time to rewrite the narrative. Teachers need to know how much you care for them, just like students need to know how much we care for students need to know how much teachers care for them. As much as we have adapted to meet student needs, we now need the same from you. Sometimes we don't like to stand up for change. I don't like to stand up here this evening. I would rather not. But sometimes it's necessary. Now is the time we must choose between what is right and what is easy, between innovation and maintaining the status quo. In these unprecedented times, we need to choose to do what is right for our students, right for the teachers. We must choose innovation and find better ways.
Next speaker is Katie Rash.
Hi, I do want to say that I am in support of educators, and I didn't know all of this that's being discussed tonight, but I do stand for you. My name is Katie. I'm a mom of 2 students in Francis Howell. I'm speaking today as a parent to call attention to the lobby and power of liberal progressive organizations in education. This might be fine for some progressive families in our district, but it might not be fine for some of the more conservative families. There are influential organizations, including national unions, SECUS, GLSEN, Southern Poverty Law Center, American Library Association, Scholastic Publishers even. These well-funded organizations have an agenda for public education, including what happens in our district here. If you'd like to find out more, go to the websites of these organizations to learn about their policy initiatives. There is a reason changes in education sweep the nation, even though districts are technically under local control. National organizations exert influence while busy parents are focused on making ends meet. Many times, the policy changes occur incrementally or in baby steps. And I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time breathing. These changes get disguised in positive ways. There's a perception that no nice or decent person could possibly be against them. This might look like including critical race theory as part of a new history course. That's kind of like when mom sneaks veggies into the spaghetti. But in this case, it's like ideological poison rather than veggies. One example we should be watching is tonight's vote on updating the non-discrimination policy to include gender identity as a protected class. A representative of the board has expressed this has limited implications. There are parents who are concerned about the unintended consequences of this change, including the use of restroom and locker room facilities, including changes to curriculum, religious parents who teach a gender binary. We want to see our views respected. We don't want our children corrected by their teachers. So we do have concerns about these initiatives. Sometimes there's a fear of speaking objective truth. We need to sometimes be the court jester in the room. I respectfully request the board to consider removing policy 1300 from this evening's consent agenda. If it doesn't happen, we will be watching closely. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Brooks.
It's been a while since I've been here. Good evening, folks. I come tonight as a parent and a taxpayer, a parent and an adult in the district to state in plain terms that ratifying the proposed changes tonight to add gender identity to the non-discrimination list in Policy Regulation 1300 is a mistake. Was anyone else here aware of this fact? That after tonight, students deciding that they are one particular gender will be able to dictate how you address them, which bathroom they use, where they change, etc. Your right of conscience, your right to speak truth, your right to privacy and safety will now be at the whim of a teenager. Are you okay with this? I have asked the board and superintendent about these changes. No one has offered any explanation as to why these particular changes need to be made now. Gender identity is not protected by law. The district is already supposedly handling these situations as they arise without problems. There is no lawsuit that has compelled this, so why are we doing it? This change should not be made without informed and significant public input. It goes far beyond treating a particular subset of students with compassion. It will have far-reaching consequences, and the burden of proof is on those who are trying to make the change. Around the country, we see problems arising from overly broad policies like this. I will mention one that occurred a couple of years ago in the Pasco County School District in Florida. A male coach was disciplined because he refused to monitor the locker room, the male locker room, where a female student was allowed to change because she said she was a he. The boys using the locker room were not told she would be there. The parents of these students were not told she would be there. The district is still dealing with the fallout of this issue in their community. Here's a letter that was written by Liberty Counsel towards the district about the situation. Quote, objective biological sex is and should remain the determining factor for access to gender-appropriate public school facilities and programs, not subjective mental identity claims or beliefs that one is the opposite sex or feeling that one is not one's biological sex. It is not discrimination or harassment for staff and students to use gender pronouns consistent with binary biological sex. Government may not force others to call another person something he or she is not, in matters of conscience, religious belief, or biology. Instead of neutrality, this is forcing conformity to one girl's beliefs. Instead of accommodation, it is violating the rights of others by imposing a girl's beliefs about her gender on everyone else. It is not discrimination to respect safety and privacy rights based on sex. It is not discrimination to protect parental rights, to protect their children, and to maintain safeguards where children have a right to sex-based privacy protections. The Supreme Court has acknowledged the lawfulness of sex-based standards that flow from legitimate biological differences between sexes. These ensure fairness, equity, and safety. They satisfy reasonable expectations of a constitutional right to privacy, reflect common practice in society, promote core values of dignity and respect. The problem with tonight's policy is that it is one-sided. It does not consider safety or other concerns. It does not clarify what the district will actually do. It simply prevents the district from exercising discretion in the future. As our elected representatives, your job, board, is to set policy. I ask you to take this change off the consent agenda and table it or vote it down. You have the opportunity to choose between the district students, staff, and parents, or the activists. We will see where your loyalties lie tonight, regardless of what you said when you were elected. Thank you.
We have also received a few patron comments via the online submission form. I will now turn it over to our Director of Communications to read those comments out loud so that I, along with the rest of the board, can focus on the messages being shared.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. First online comment was from Eric Warren, a staff member. He says, why is the dedicated elementary content leader for the fine arts being cut? The secondary level has multiple content leaders. Can we shuffle those positions? We need a dedicated content leader with fine arts training. Thanks for your time. The next comment is from Victoria Weir, a staff member and district resident. She says, losing recess paras will certainly affect classroom teachers and their plan time and may impact special area and schedules. Special area does not have an EDC representative on the elementary level, and losing our K-12 content leader will impact how our voices are heard in big decision making. And the third and final comment received online was from Claudine Lewis. She says, my name is Claudine Lewis, and I have been a music teacher at Becky David Elementary for 20 years. I'm very concerned about the loss of the fine arts content leader for next year. I understand that our area will be covered by another current content leader. However, if this person has no fine arts experience or has never taught fine arts in the classroom, how can they properly serve and advocate for our unique needs? At the elementary level, we also don't have a department chair, as special area DCs were cut several years ago. Combine this with having to teach both virtually and in person with no subject-specific PD or training, it makes us feel like we and our subject matter are not valued by FHSD. Thank you.
FHEA?
I'm doing a selfie, sorry. Good evening. I am speaking on behalf of Anita Keener, president of FHEA, due to the fact that she is on modified quarantine because of a school COVID-19 exposure. We want to celebrate and thank certified staff, support staff, counselors, administrators, and the community for successfully surviving first semester of 2021. We would also like to congratulate the renewal of National Board Certified Teachers, Mindy Resnick and Jason Becker. We also want to offer our condolences to the family and friends of Doug Brosty, a beloved bus driver and alumnus of the Francis Howe School District. Our hearts go out to all in our Francis Howe family who have lost loved ones and friends to this terrible pandemic. FHEA appreciates the long-standing tradition of setting aside time for FHEA and FHSD to update the district and advocate for hundreds of the members that we represent. FHEA and FHSD have spoken openly and honestly at these meetings without a time limit for well over 20 years. And hearing that a time limit has now been imposed when these two speakers represent the voices of the majority of our employees is shocking. We want to believe that promises made to our employee groups about support and collaboration will be honored, but time and time again, we don't see it. We are so disheartened to see that after a year of unprecedented change, amazing adaptations, and self-sacrifice from our staff, we are now cutting many positions because of board policy that demands we don't drop below 15% balances. It takes every one of us to provide the education and support that our students need right now. How will we do that next year? Surely, the midst of a pandemic is the time to make smaller cuts. We have weathered many storms. We need to learn from past mistakes. In past years, we have cut too deep. Cuts hurt kids. We owe the students that are here today an education. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Our property values continue to rise. Our housing market continues to boom. We will recover from this. If our balances continue to decrease, then we should make incremental adjustments. Our aggressiveness should be focused on our support for students, not aggressively restoring fund balances. Thank you.
FHSD? Okay. Board, I would like a motion to approve the agenda for January 21st, 2021 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the December 17th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we will move on to our best practice, the report from Vacation Station, Dr. Will Vanderpool. And, all right, Miss Susie Lane, sorry, we're moving down.
There he is. All right, okay.
All right. Good evening, members of our Board of Education, Dr. Hogan, members of the Executive Cabinet, and all of you here with us tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to share programming about Vacation Station. Do I do the clicker, Laura? Yes. Okay. And, all right. So we're here tonight to share with you about our Vacation Station programming Vacation Station is the high-quality out-of-school time program here in Francis Howell School District. We are located in each elementary school, and we also provide a consolidated program for middle schools during the summer. Vacation Station is open year-round and only closed on 11 district holidays. We also provide snow day care at consolidated sites as well to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our working families. Following our school closures last March, Vacation Station was the first program to reopen its doors to families. In May, Vacation Station provided care for returning employees, assisting the district in its efforts to bring staff back while supporting the needs of their families. We then opened on June 1st for our district families. Vacation Station worked closely with administration to develop protocols for health and safety. We brought children back at consolidated sites, implementing strict cohorts to assist us with the identification of any close contacts that may occur. Our Vacation Station team pivoted to adjust their programming model to ensure that even in strict cohorts, children would have a fun, safe, and engaging environment. During the summer, Vacation Station also supported preschool programming, bringing them into our elementary schools to provide leadership and support in these summer months. Our VS staff, under the leadership of coordinators, worked quickly and efficiently to come up with a plan to keep all staff and students safe. Since COVID was, and honestly still is, a very fluid situation, VS was flexible, constantly evaluating the best practice and putting new standards into place, such as introducing the use of masks by staff and children. We also developed systems to track quarantine staff and students. Our work was the beginning of the district work in developing protocols to bring students back in August. We're very proud to note that while there were cases of COVID during the summer, we had no internal spread. Now, to let you know why it worked so well, I would like to introduce Nicole Gerbich and Sarah Pipes to share information on our Vacation Station programming here in Francis Howell.
All right. Vacation Station staff have experienced changing designated areas and plans on short notice in order to accommodate building needs. The existing flexibility supported by the work needed to adjust programming due to COVID. Our staff jumped in and planned a whole successful summer in weeks.
The Vacation Station philosophy has always been to provide quality, enriching, and affordable programming to meet the needs of the families of Francis Howell. The lessons and activities are strategic and provide experiences to help develop the whole child. Each VS site is designed around 6 core centers. The structure of the program and planned lessons give students opportunities for self-expression and the development of a positive self-image. All staff participate in professional development throughout the year. This professional development is designed to meet program needs and improvement. Vacation Station developed a curriculum that was based on state and national standards. All staff were included in writing, testing, and revising all parts of the curriculum. Students provided feedback and staff made adjustments based upon this feedback. Their curriculum is currently under revision with leadership teams at each building to keep current with best practices. Every year, the Vacation Station program establishes goals to help support student learning and growth. Student participation data is tracked, monitored, and analyzed. Teacher input, school curriculum, and data are reviewed and used to help develop lesson plans with our program goals. With all this said, we cannot forget our main priorities to make sure our students are having fun through hands-on, engaging activities. The Vacation Station program at each site reviews their school improvement goals. This school year, the VS sites are expanding their program goals to incorporate equity. Site leaders are receiving training through the National After School Alliance and working with their elementary buildings to develop plans on how to support these efforts in a very purposeful manner.
Our Vacation Station coordinators sit on state committee meetings providing feedback and support in the areas of program quality, professional development, and STEAM. The Vacation Station coordinators help plan and present professional development at the Mozak State Conferences. In November 2018, our team successfully planned and implemented the Mozak Conference for the state. We are proud to say that our Vacation Station coordinators are often looked to as a resource for various out-of-school time programs statewide. We are currently working with Mason to provide our frontline staff with free quality professional development to continue to maintain Vacation Station and state standards.
Every student's success is important to us at Vacation Station. VS coordinators participate in their site's student care teams, IEP meetings, and work with case managers at ESCs to help students be successful throughout their entire day. Coordinators are able to share insight as to many of these students' social interactions during their out-of-school time. Due to our close collaborations with the building teams, VS staff are able to provide supports that are consistent with the student's school day.
Our support of students does not end when the bell rings for the students to go to school. Vacation Station leadership staff offer support throughout the school day to all students. Program buildings have aligned their goals our program and the buildings have aligned their goals to support students' success. Some examples of the building support is one-on-one tutoring, providing interventions and extensions, or perhaps providing breaks for students who might need extra supports throughout the day. Vacation Station leadership staff are on site throughout the school day and often volunteer and are able to volunteer their time to fill in when positions go unfilled due to COVID. Anything from covering classrooms, recess, lunchroom, Vacation Station leadership staff are more than willing to jump in. Vacation Station staff are there to make sure that our building and students continue to function at the highest level. In many instances, Vacation Station coordinators are available and have assisted school administrator needs when they arise.
Vacation Station is able to provide students with disabilities additional staffing from a grant through the Developmental Disability Resource Board. Because of this collaboration, the Francis Howell School District is able to serve students with multiple disabilities and various medical needs. If it were not for the Vacation Station program, these families would have limited access to services and care. With this valuable community collaboration, VS is able to provide the highest quality programming for these students and utilize the strategies that are used throughout the school day to provide consistency to our students.
Vacation Station is also a provider through the Division of Social Services to allow families qualifying for child care subsidy to use Vacation Station program at a much reduced rate. Vacation Station and Francis Howell recognize the importance to be available for all students. Vacation Station staff are committed to doing whatever it takes to meet the expectations of the state so that Vacation Station and Francis Howell can continue to provide services to all those receiving assistance. Safety is Vacation Station's #1 priority. Being a part of the district, we are able to access and implement the best safety practices established by Francis Howell, keeping students in Francis Howell safe their entire time. Parents have the added security of knowing that from the moment they drop off to the moment they pick up, their children are safe. Whether it be a student being dropped off at 6:30 or a student being dropped off at 9 a.m. via the bus, all students in Francis Howell are being taken care of at the highest safety measures. All staff in the Vacation Station program have been trained in first aid and CPR as well as 4E. All students are accounted for through the day with multiple attendance checks, double check-in processes with Vacation Station in the school for the afternoon attendance to assure that no child is going home to an empty house. All staff are trained in active supervision, implementing supervision zones with the recess staff as well. Safety drills are regularly scheduled for Vacation Station in the after-school hours. This assures, in a case of emergency, staff are able to provide safety for students. You may recall just a couple of years ago, one of our Warren Vacation Station students alerted us to a kitchen fire. The staff were able to sound the alarm and safely move children out of potential harm's way.
So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Vacation Station enrollment was increasing, as you saw in tonight's annual board report. We're very proud to be a strong support to the children, families, and school district as a whole. I want to underscore, I hope you've been looking at the pictures as we've been going through, because we've given you a lot of the reasons why Vacation Station works so well, but the pictures are going to show you even more, because they're going to show you the fun the children are having through the lesson plans and engaging activities that are provided. They get opportunities in Vacation Station that they might otherwise miss. We'd like to think that our ability to bring children back safely into the buildings last summer supported the district's planning for their success this school year. We could not have done this without the support of our district administration and the hard work of our staff. I want to take just a moment to thank our Vacation Station coordinators for their work in leading this charge, and for all of our staff members for the hard work that goes into every single day to make Vacation Station the exemplary program that it is. Thank you for your time. Yes.
And I'd like to congratulate Susan Lane. We both celebrated my mom's 98th birthday in heaven yesterday. Our daughter called us, and she was 2 weeks early, and we have our 4th grandchild born on my mother's birthday yesterday. Aww. Congratulations.
I have pictures if anybody wants to.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to our Proposition S report. Mr. John Klein.
All right, good evening. I'm very excited to be here and share some of the work that's been happening with Prop S. It wasn't until we started to put this presentation together that we started to realize a lot of things have happened in a very short amount of time. So just to kind of catch everyone up, what's happened since June when the prop passed is that we selected a project management company, Atlas Building Group, who is serving as our owner's rep, who will help coordinate some of our projects along the way. We also took a deep dive into the existing Prop S budget and looked for things that are like projects that we could do some efficiencies by collectively putting those together and bidding those out, as well as looking at some of the life cycle replacements and maybe shifting a few things from phase 2 to phase 1 and back and forth, depending on their need. We conducted a site survey of the admin complex and the Francis Howell North complex. And then we started the schematic design work on the new Francis Howell North project. As part of that, we researched and selected our CMAR firm for Francis Howell North, and we also engaged Weiss Design Group and their services as part of evaluating our playgrounds and our parking lots across the district. This is a list of the current projects that we are currently working on. I'll go into a little bit more detail as we go through this presentation this evening. As part of this, I also want to share that we have completed some projects as part of Prop S. The Hollenbeck track was completed with ADA updates, with a resurfacing of the entire track. The Warren parking lot was also resurfaced over the summer, and then we also added the Fairmount portable classroom to that facility. We also, as I talked a little bit earlier about looking at packaging things in between and looking for efficiencies, we did have some life cycle replacements that ended sooner than expected, and so we actually moved a few things up from a phase 2 level to a phase 1, and that was related around some HVAC work around the district that we were able to use Prop S funds for and get an early start on some of that work in the district. One of the top priorities of Prop S is safety, and so we are installing safety security vestibules across the district in all of our middle schools and our elementary schools, with the exception of Henderson and Fairmount. Both of those facilities have a sizable addition that it is better if we wait and see through some master planning activities that will take place with those buildings to determine where the current entrance is, if it might need to move to be better efficiencies within those buildings. So we're delaying those two projects and we'll encompass that as part of their additions that are slated for those facilities. This is an example of some of the work that's been taking place. So this is Becky David. And just to kind of show you, this is their current main entrance, and they right now have an administrative assistant who sits here in the hallway and greets families as they come in. We'll be adding a second set of doors to here, just outside of their main office, and then a transactional window right here where that AA who was sitting in the hall will now sit. We worked with the principal and the staff in the office there to reconfigure that office to accommodate this transactional window that will help maintain the safety and security of our buildings going forward. As I mentioned earlier, we did engage Weiss Design Group to evaluate our parking lots, playgrounds, and fields. This is an example of the work that's being done by Weiss Design Group. They've done an excellent job. They're looking at each school and they're evaluating each piece or section of a parking lots that encompass the building, and then telling us which is the worst of the worst, and then which has some additional life cycles left on it. Everything that's in red right here is what they identified as must be replaced, and then everything that's in yellow, which is their student parking lot up here, this here has about another four to 6 years left on it. As we look across the district, there's a lot of asphalt and concrete, and that can absorb a lot of the budget of Prop S just in itself. So it's important for us to take a deep look at what actually needs to be replaced at this time, and then use this data that's being provided by Weiss Design Group to create a strategic plan for long-range capital planning of replacements of parking lots as needed. Just to kind of also show you here, so this is part of their report that they also show This here is what is called alligator cracking. This is caused when there's not enough asphalt on the parking lot. How this was determined is that WEAS has done core sampling. We have found some of our asphalted parking lots have about maybe 1.5 inches of asphalt, where the standard is about 4 inches. So all of this is based in factual information that is being done by WEAS Design Group. This is that student lot that I was talking about. It does have some water penetration underneath the asphalt, which is causing some alligator cracking here as well, but it's also causing it to pool, which causes these potholes. We'll be looking at addressing all of these through our Prop S work as we continue forward. Becky David is a project that we'll be working on this summer. It has a lot of issues, as we talked about in Prop S, in the campaign for the work to be done here within the district. As you know, Becky David has some severe power issues with an antiquated power supply system that even Ameren is iffy on whether they'll touch it or not. So that'll be addressed, as well as the boiler loop problem that's causing leaks throughout the building, and also a completely new HVAC system. As part of working through this process, we are going to be using a cooperative purchasing program called the Omnia Consortium. Through the Omnia Consortium, basically they've already done the RFP process on a lot of the HVAC equipment, as well as other things that are impacted by that. Flooring, ceiling tile, windows, doors, things that are all part of this consortium will help us in some of that efficiency, because it'll save time in having to do a long drawn out RFP process. But as part of this, it also gives us the ability to pick contractors who are familiar with our school. It also gives us some great savings. For example, a chilling tower, which is the big cooling tower for some buildings, they average about $100,000 or more, depending on their size. There are some deep discounts that can be received through this, which is about 67% on some of their things. Cooling towers is one of those items. That alone will help stretch the dollars of Prop S to make sure that we're able to accomplish everything that we need to accomplish on the list of tasks that are before us for Prop S. The new Francis Howell North program. This is an exciting time to build the new high school. We are on an accelerated design process just because initially we thought we were going to approve the bond in April, and we ended up, due to COVID, approving it in June. So that put us behind on our timeline, so we've had to accelerate that. So we've looked at ways to try and catch up on that, and as you know, we did approve for SM Wilson to be our construction manager at risk. And that process is to have the builder of the building actually participate in the design of the building to help us with some of the efficiencies and some cost-saving measures. And as we're going through the design, it will also allow them to start developing plans to actually build the actual building. We have engaged the staff as well as the principal and then peers from the central office here on the academic team to contribute to the design process. We've completed round 1 meetings with all of the department heads at Francis Howell North, and by the end of next week we'll complete a round 2 visit where we'll be coming back to them and showing them how we took their feedback and transformed their classroom designs for the new Francis Howell North. We are about 95% done with our schematic design, and as I mentioned, we did engage SM Wilson as part of the process in November. We have regular meetings with them, and that has been very helpful in the design process because they have been bringing some interesting things for us to consider as we are still completing those schematic designs. We will be engaging in a rolling GMP, or Guaranteed Maximum Price process. The first iteration of the budget will come when they complete the schematic design. And basically, this is a process that SM Wilson uses to help us pay attention to the design process, but also look at the budget overall. So they're going to take the very rough of drawings and give us what is worst case scenario. And then as we start to become more detailed with our drawings through the design development process, they will start to fine tune that budget and start to shrink it so that it comes into budget of what we had planned for through Prop S. In October, we will be coming to the board with our final GMP, which is basically telling the board that this will be the guaranteed price that the builder will be able to build our building. There will be a couple packages that we'll have to approve in advance, such as the grading work that needs to be done on the campus in order to prepare for the design. But this has been a very seamless process, and we are very excited with the progress that we are making. Just to kind of give everyone an update as to where we stand with this. So this is the proposed new Francis Howell North. It sits on the existing athletic fields. We have had a lot of good conversations to come up with this design. It has the footprint of Howell High, but the interior has been reconfigured to fit the needs of the Francis Howell North community. One of the things that we did look at in the design process is that there is an entryway to the campus that's right here. We actually adjusted it. It was just a little piece of a roadway. We actually adjusted that in the design so that we could accommodate the athletic fields onto the same side. If not, one was going to be over and across the road. And as this being an exit to the campus, there was concerns for student safety. And so we actually decided to scrap this little tail piece into the parking lot and extend it a little bit to make this loop roadway that goes around the campus. Some of the other things, as I talked about earlier, is that we did do a site survey, and this here is just a reflection of how we are going to be using the various slopes and hills within the Francis Howell North property to be able to accommodate our building and make the best use of the land without additional costs. And then here we have a layout of the schematic of the building. This was done as part of our collaboration with the teachers and the staff and the principal and the academic team. So as they defined what they were looking for in their classroom, it kind of helped us find places for it in the building. So we are able to kind of keep departments all together so they're not in portions of the building spread throughout. Some of the things that we're bringing to the building is we're bringing some innovation and some new things into our new high school. For example, this learning stair that's here in the center of the building. If you're familiar with Google, Google has what they call the Google staircase. It's a space for collaboration. So what's on this staircase and what makes it a little bit different is that there are data ports and charging stations where students can actually sit, chat, collaborate, and be able to stay connected into their technology. Other things that we did is we switched the places from where Howell High has their athletic facilities onto this side of the building here, and this will actually overlook the new football stadium that will be built after the building is constructed. There are a few more examples of items in here, but one of the other things that I want to point out is that we are looking at an innovative space, which is on the tailpiece of the lower level. It has not been defined as to what that space is going to be, but it gives us the potential to bring different programs into the building for our students. For example, if we wanted to make this school our culinary arts program or our biomedical science program, we could house those special needs for that particular program or programs in this space here. I also want to go back, and I'll use this piece up here, but on the previous slide there was some expansion pieces. In the event that we do need to expand enrollment because we've had a growth in our community, the building is set that we have the ability to add on to the building seamlessly or add a level from the lower level to create an additional space for us. Okay, that brings us to the DLC Union. As you know, the DLC Union programs are currently housed in the old Howell High Building C. That building is in poor shape and is needing replacement. And so we have the option through Prop S to build a new facility or potentially look at some creativity. So as we look at building new, we currently occupy about 63,000 square feet in the old C building for these programs. And at an average cost of about $225 a square foot, that would be about $14 million for us to build a new facility. That would also mean that we'd have to find the land and the space to be able to do such within the district. So as we looked through this, we started to think about what are our options out there. And so we looked at several properties in the area, one being the old Gold's Gym on 94 when that closed. Well, it was a decent facility. It wasn't tall enough to be able to accommodate a second floor, so we wouldn't be able to do a whole lot with that building. Some of the buildings that we looked at also weren't as flexible in being able to be renovated to fit our needs. And some were just too small to work for our needs, what was available. Well, this facility does have a larger amount of space. It's $6.3 million, so that's basically $63 a square feet, so we're already saving a little bit on that. It also has some flexibility to it, which allows us to create the space and consolidate some of the programs across the district. For example, we're looking at bringing all of our alternative learning programs together under one roof instead of being spread out across the district. And that's just an example of how we're able to use this space to our advantage, even though it is larger than what we are currently occupying in our C facility. Also, it helps address other Prop S projects. So, for example, there is a current plan right now to move a portion or all of the administration building into this new facility and then reutilize this building in the construction of our transportation facilities. If you're not familiar with our transportation facilities, we're split between 2 locations within the district, and our transportation folks are operating out of 2 trailers that, while we have renovated those trailers, they still are in poor working conditions. And so if we bring them into here and then use this building to create the flexible space that they need in order to run a seamless transportation operation, it gives us the opportunity to save on the actual construction cost of the transportation garage, where we were going to build a garage plus administrative offices. So reusing this building, and then we changed the design of the garage actually to be more of a prefabricated or a steel structure, will help us in saving money that can be used for other projects throughout Prop S. And that is where we are with Prop S at this time. Any questions?
A while back, there was talk about Henderson and the driveway with Francis Hall North. Is there still talk about adding an additional driveway to Henderson, or do we not feel we need that anymore?
Not at this time. We're doing some roadway work into the main drive of Francis Howell High and, Francis Howell North and Henderson to accommodate the construction traffic that will also, after construction, make it a little bit more fluid to reach Henderson.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick question. You mentioned that the asphalt in a lot of our parking lots is only 1.5 inches. Is that just from wear, or is that from improper installation?
No, it's just from wear. It just, rain, cars going, you don't really know how much is there. And so one of the reasons for doing the core sampling is to make sure that we look at what is there so that we can plan appropriately. So one of the things that Weiss is actually bringing to the table for us that's going to be super helpful in this process is that there's newer technology, so we're not going to have to tear out the asphalt that's existing. We'll be able to leave that intact, and then we'll be using some fabric over that and then doing additional overlay of asphalt on top of that, which will actually strengthen and help that asphalt last longer for us.
When do you actually see groundbreaking for Francis Hall North, where you actually see, you mentioned that the final project, the money, the contract is, or whatever, it's going to be in October, but when do you actually see us getting in there and start?
So I'll use this as an opportunity to just put a plug in to save the date for May 20th. That'll be our groundbreaking ceremony. It's also a board meeting date. And then the actual, we'll start the grading from there. We're actually looking at the day the students leave from school for the semester. We'll start the construction fence going around the property and start doing the grading for that work that needs to be accomplished. all goes well, whether favorable and everything along the process, we are looking for an opening in fall of 23.
Thank you.
As watching this process, evolve and going through, it's been very interesting. But I guess one of the main things that it wasn't brought up here, but I think it's very important to note that is the fact that while we have union operating and our DOC operating, they're operating in conditions that are not ideal, and these projects will be moving forward, but they would be moving forward for a number of years. So this building and the opportunity is going to give us the way to move these projects forward and have them in a working environment probably 3 to 5 years ahead of schedule.
Absolutely, it definitely will move that across a lot faster. As you see, it's taking us a couple years to build the new Francis Howell North. It would take about the same to do a new DLC union facility, so we will be able to get these staff members out of their current working conditions and in a better environment in a much faster timeline by reutilizing a facility that's already out there.
And one other thing is just I want to thank the committee for what they've been doing. Is it seems like and being part of the process, you're seeing that let's do it once, do it right.
Absolutely.
And if there's a way to save money so that we can allocate those funds to another project, that's being done repeatedly throughout the process. So
yeah,
I want to thank the committee and everybody that's been working with it, the architects, everybody included, for thinking about cost saving methods and doing what's best for our community and our kids.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you.
So exciting. Okay, we will now move on to the MSBA board report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of January. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the decision by the State Board of Education to move forward with state assessments this spring. The State Board voted at its December meeting to continue to administer statewide assessments to students next year, but to suspend the use of the test results from state and federal accountability systems because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Commissioner of Education Dr. Margie Van Dieven said during the meeting she expects COVID-19 will have an impact on assessment results.
We don't want our educators spending their time right now thinking about a standardized test. We want them to be educating our kids, and we believe that if they continue to educate the kids to the best of their ability, the scores generally take care of themselves, but we expect to see some differentiation. Who wouldn't expect to see that?
State Board of Education President Charlie Shields said it's important to understand if there are achievement losses as a result of the pandemic.
When this started back in March of last year, we were talking about just the end of that school year. Now this is dragged on and potentially has a year and a half effect on that. So I think we understand the losses. I think it's also equally important to understand, did those losses occur more in underserved communities? So children that face significant socioeconomic challenges, did we see higher levels of achievement losses in those communities? So once we know that, I think what happens is it allows us to begin to think about what does an appropriate remediation plan look like. But you can't develop a remediation plan if you don't understand the challenge out there.
The decision by the State Board of Education followed a discussion of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's 2021 assessment plan. As the 2021 regular session of the Missouri General Assembly gets underway this month, an issue likely to be discussed is changing the school board election date from April to the November general election. MSBA believes school board elections should continue to be held on the municipal election day. MSBA's Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says moving school board elections to the November general election would make those elections more partisan and would create another problem.
The other problem is that there is not an election every November. There's a general election every other November, so it would throw off the election of school board members. So we would elect 4 members one time and 2 members or 3 members the next time, and so it could be very problematic.
MSBA believes school board elections should remain nonpartisan so school board members can focus on what's best for students. By the way, candidate filing for the April school board elections closes on January 19th. There are resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a legal guide to running for the school board. MSBA's priorities for the 2021 session of the General Assembly include legislation to ensure a safe education environment for all children, funding to ensure adequate resources for all school districts to meet state and federal standards, legislation and funding to allow school districts to offer quality, voluntary pre-kindergarten programs, and legislation supporting the expansion of and access to high-capacity broadband internet services throughout Missouri. MSBA will keep you informed about legislative developments during the session through our weekly Legislative Voice newsletter, our daily updates on Twitter, through critical issue alerts, and through periodic webinars. School board members throughout the state will be honored for their work during School Board Recognition Week, February 14th through 20th, as declared by Governor Parson. It's a great opportunity for communities to honor local school board members who provide leadership to our local school districts throughout the state. Check the MSBA website for resources related to School Board Recognition Week. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Okay. Board, I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda for January 21st, 2021, as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the December 2020 financial statements as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the preschool and vacation station tuition rates for fiscal year 22 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to vote for this because I do believe we need to be financially safe here with increasing tuition, but I still have voiced my or disappointed that we do not have a Minds in Motion program at Meadows Parkway. I feel like there's room and we're losing a program that should be in all 3 buildings. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the suspension of policy regulation 4610ES and 4610SU for the 2020-21 school year as presented.
Second.
Ms. Simpkins?
Thank you. This month, we are just bringing forward a recommendation to suspend this policy in regards to support staff evaluation process. The specific procedures for the evaluation process is in policy, and you'll remember last month we brought forward some changes for our teacher evaluation.
For many of the same reasons, we're bringing this policy forward. Many of our staff members are being called to do much different work throughout their day, whether that is helping in the lunchroom or leaving their desks and helping to cover a class for many reasons. And the stress on our administrators as far as working through the COVID tracing is really just taking them away from doing some of those observations. So we have worked with FHSD to adjust some of our processes, and our support staff employees will still receive an evaluation. They can request a more thorough evaluation if they would like to, and of course any concerns or issues our administrators will still be able to address those with employees as necessary. I also just wanted to take a minute to share with you that we are following some of the same guidelines with our administrator evaluation. There is not a policy that dictates that process, and so it really is just practice. But we'll be working with our administrators and with our executive cabinet to change that practice as well. Much of the same forms will be used, but how we complete those forms and the amount of feedback and goal setting that goes into that administrator evaluation will be changed, as we are doing with the support staff and the teacher evaluation. So we'll of course still have conversation with anyone that we feel we need to, and we will meet with any employee that would like to talk about performance or is having issues, but just hoping to relieve some stress and some time restraints on all parties involved in that process.
Any discussion board? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will now move to our work session. Led by Ms. Lisa Simmons.
I'm going to grab the clicker. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the recommended staffing plan for the 21-22 school year with you. It was really tough work. A lot of hard decisions, a lot of thought has gone into the staffing plan. You will remember that in June of 2020, Dr. Hoven shared a 2-year plan to right-size our district budget. And during the 2021 school year, we have been mindful of our spending. And we were already, though, committed to a staffing plan and some salary increases, so we're not able to do much change this school year. But as we work to prepare the 21-22 school year and eliminate the deficit in our budget, we are bringing forward a staffing plan that will reduce positions in all levels of the organization. It is an aggressive approach and will significantly change how we do our work. An outcome of these reductions will likely be that course offerings will be eliminated, programs could be reduced, and class sizes will increase across the district beyond our Francis Hall norms. Also, in the 2021 school year, we had a very robust virtual learning program as was necessary due to the pandemic. We are really unsure of what those virtual learning demands will look like for next year. And so staffing to support a virtual learning option is not included in this plan. As we move through the spring and we have a better idea of what those staffing needs will look like based on student enrollment in virtual learning, we will try to reallocate the staff that is included in this plan. But if we are unable to do that, we will come back to the board and ask for additional positions to meet the needs of virtual learning. In addition, you'll see in the plan that we propose vacation station staffing being reduced. Families may become much more comfortable enrolling in vacation station as the fears of COVID decrease. And should that occur, if additional staffing is needed, we'll request that to be sure that we're running a safe program. So Executive Cabinet began discussions about the 21-22 staffing plan last June, and it was determined that pushing back the staffing workshop to this month would be necessary. It really did allow us to have a clearer financial picture to help us direct what we needed to do in the plan. In October, Mr. Delaney, our Director of Human Resources, and I began to meet with each and every district administrator And we developed an initial plan that was then reviewed and modified by full cabinet. And then the staffing model was shared and discussed with all of the groups that you see listed on the screen. Each year, we request contingency staffing. And these are additional positions placed on hold and only used if absolutely necessary. For example, should enrollment in a particular building be higher than expected, the contingency staffing approved by the board allows us to quickly address that need in a timely manner. Only the contingency that we use in a given year is carried over to the new school year in those beginning FTE balances. If we don't use the FTE in the contingency staffing that year, it is eliminated before moving on to the next plan. We have been tracking the use of contingency staffing since the 2012-2013 school year, and including the contingency we used this current school year, about 48% of what we have asked for has actually been used. And as we monitor that, it's clear that we use more contingency staffing on the certified and support staff side of the house instead of vacation station, early childhood, or even in transportation. The request of contingency staffing is always examined closely, but it will be more heavily scrutinized this year as our overall goal is to reduce the staffing and to help in reducing the budget. So we've broken down the presentation into three major areas: certified, support, and tuition-based programs. And I'm going to start with just some details about certified staff. Our overall decrease is close to 73 FTEs. On the administrator side, we are proposing eliminating the administrator of tuition-based programs. Directors on the academic team, with help from our parents as teacher leads, will absorb the work of this position. In addition, the Dean of Students position at all three high schools will be eliminated. We will also see a reduction of a part-time administrative intern at the elementary level. And while these positions are provided teacher contracts, their duties and responsibilities are fully administrative, and the reduction of these positions will have an impact on our administrative teams in those buildings. During the 2020-21 school year, we did not fill a vacant content leader position. And with some reorganization of the department, we are recommending that this stay a permanent reduction in our staffing plan. The teacher reductions will increase class sizes across the district, and I will talk more specifically about this on the next slide. But it will be a significant change in our culture. Francis Howell has enjoyed lower class sizes compared to other districts in St. Charles County for many years. And this plan will increase class sizes in most grade levels, making us consistent with other county districts. I do want to note that reading staffing across the district will remain status quo. There is no change. However, after reviewing the data later this month, we will plan to reallocate staffing and move positions across buildings to better support the needs of our struggling students. Special education staffing also will remain status quo and will not change, but positions again will be reallocated across the district to meet those needs. And finally, I want to mention that there is some hold staffing built into our plan for the potential return of homeschooled students and to assist our middle school principals when they're doing their scheduling. This staffing is expected to be used. We're just waiting to determine where the specific needs are, and then we'll utilize that staffing in each individual building. So we'll talk a little bit about elementary class sizes. This slide shows the average class size per level at elementary that will result in this proposal. And I do share with you the MSIP 6 desirable and maximum standards for comparison purposes. When creating this plan, we aimed for classes to be between the midpoint and the maximum of the MSIP standards. In the past, we have always tried to plan class sizes at the midpoint or slightly below. So that is how we get to some of the reductions that you see in this plan. But still, we will have a range of class sizes across the district from 18 students in a class to 26 students in a classroom. We will see some kindergarten classes at 23. We'll see some fourth grade classes at 25 and 26. and we could have up to 26 fifth graders in a class. So higher than what we are used to seeing in Francis Hall for sure. Secondary class sizes are shown here. It is difficult to determine or project class sizes at the secondary level at this point in the process. When we create a staffing plan, we base it on the classroom teachers in those buildings and the student enrollment that is being projected. This plan calls for an average class size at middle school of 21.9 and high school of 24.9. The FTE is provided to each building, and then principals are tasked with creating a master schedule and a staffing plan that meets the needs of students and their enrollment choices, as well as staying within the DESE guidelines. And those ranges are also shown on the screen for you. We feel with the level of staffing provided, principals can keep class sizes within this range. However, should class sizes be larger than our expectations, principals will contact human resources for additional support, and this is where that contingency staffing can be helpful. On the certified side in early childhood, it's remaining relatively unchanged. There are some small increases being recommended to support the overall program. These increases are funded by the additional tuition revenue that would require those changes, and also through special education grants. So I'd like to flip over to our support staff side. Knowing we do have an overall decrease of support staff of about 40 FTE, and knowing there would be a need to reduce staffing, several of our budgeted positions were not filled as they became vacant during the 2021 school year. The asterisk that you see on the screen indicates that every position within that category is already vacant, so a person will not lose their job. These positions, we've held them vacant when a staff member had resigned, knowing that this plan was coming forward. This is also true for 2 of the 3 administrative assistant positions that make up the FTE listed on the screen, and 1 of the 2 manager positions noted. Administration will work with those individuals who are personally impacted if we have a person in the job, and will help to relocate them to a different position if they're interested. In an effort to reduce staffing costs, we looked at many ways that we could do our work differently, and a significant savings can be found by instituting early release Wednesdays at the elementary level. This will allow teachers the opportunity to meet in their professional learning communities on Wednesday, like our secondary teachers. This will free time in their schedule to supervise recess, and therefore the position of recess para would no longer be needed. The 15.06 FTE listed represents approximately 40 part-time employees at the elementary level. The savings in changing the way that we do our work is approximately $440,000. In addition, early release Wednesday at the elementary level would reduce standby time for some of our bus drivers, and the conservative transportation savings for this change is approximately $59,000. If the plan is approved by the Board of Education, we will need to work through this change in moving to early release Wednesdays. It's possible that some support will be needed for our kindergarten and first grade teachers to ensure that they receive the appropriate plan time as by policy. If it becomes necessary that we need to increase staffing to make sure that they're getting the appropriate plan time, the additional FTE will be requested. And it could then slightly reduce our savings projections that we're sharing with you tonight. I also want you to know that it will require us as a district to call a reduction in force, as those positions of recess paras won't all be able to be reallocated into new positions. And we also know that releasing early on Wednesdays at the elementary level will mean that families may need support and childcare during that time. So we are working with Vacation Station to see if options can be offered and created for those families who will need care. Finally, in the support staff section, we have reallocated some staffing to add a new custodian and part-time grounds employee to support the new multi-use facility being purchased by the district. A warehouse position is also being included to better support the needs of the reallocation of some duties to our warehouse. We've added some additional FTE for our nurse coordinator to continue working the additional days that we had temporarily added to her calendar due to the pandemic. We'd like to continue to have that permanently in order to support the district in that work. And we have, due to meeting the needs to meet some of the DESE essential requirements and our parents as teachers model, a small amount of staffing is being reallocated to support that program. We'll move over to tuition-based programs, and we do see an overall decrease of about 40 FTEs there. As tuition-based programs, both our early childhood and vacation station staffing must meet enrollment needs. And at this time, we are recommending a reduction in staffing. But as I said before, if we see increases in enrollment, then it is possible that we'll need to add that staffing back to keep those ratios at a high level. You'll see that we are asking for the reduction in staffing, but later we're asking for some contingency staffing. And that's where we'll utilize that contingency staffing if we see enrollment increase in those programs. Again, these are tuition-based programs, so any additional revenue will help offset the additional costs of those positions. So these are just some totals on the certified and support staff side of our staffing plan. A conservative approach, but we believe that the staffing plan will save about $6.9 million. There really is no way to know who will resign or retire, and I don't want to appear to overestimate the savings, as I know other budget decisions will be necessary when we're looking to reduce the overall budget. We do hope to see the reductions come from attrition. And many will come from resignations or the non-renewal of one-year only teacher contracts. We will have some retirements, but it won't all come from those higher stepped teachers. Those that resign are likely to not have earned tenure with the district and may be fairly new teachers. So wanted to be sure that we were thinking through the salary or the reduction savings and being conservative there. When possible, we use the actual salaries when we were figuring that savings. For teaching positions, we use the standard $80,000. That is our average teacher salary plus 25% for the cost of benefits and things of that nature. This is the same method that we use when we ask you to add a position. We use that average salary. We also reduced the savings for those positions that we included for contingency or hold staffing, assuming that we might need them, and wanted to be sure that we were presenting a conservative savings to you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the staffing plan.
Mr.
Lisa, you may not know this, but how many thus far retirements/resignations have we received?
I do have that number for you, Patrick, because I thought that might be a question.
Oh.
And so far, it's about 51 positions across the district. I can tell you by...
Certified, I'm sorry, that's certified 51?
Certified positions, 51 positions. That is one-year only contracts that we did not expect to renew.
Okay.
That's retirements and resignations. So we're right at about 51.
And is the window still open for early retirement incentive?
Well, it closed on January 15th, but we had talked with the board and planned to email staff to extend that through the end of February. So after hearing some of the reductions today, someone had not shared with us their intent to retire. They would be able to do that and still receive that incentive of $500 through the end of February. So we'll be communicating that tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
When's the actual reductions finalized? When does that take place?
So the board is seeing this for the first time in workshop. We'll take any direction from the board. We'll bring it back to you on February 4th for a vote. Once the staffing plan is finalized, then we'll share the FTE with the buildings, and they'll work through their individual building plans. They'll send me then a list of teachers that maybe they weren't able to place within their building. And they'll also send me a list of openings that they have in their building, because oftentimes those certifications don't match. We'll create a master list and we'll start to place teachers across the district. So if I have an opening at one building and a teacher from another, I'll be able to place them. We'll work through that the week of March 8th. And so by March 12th, March 15th, if I don't have a specific position for someone, that's when I'll be notifying those individuals that would be personally impacted by a reduction in force. So about mid-March.
So you mentioned that there is no staffing for a virtual program, but we've already asked parents would they be interested, and I thought the plan was we were going to offer virtual.
We just don't know the level of what is going to be needed yet. So instead of coming forward and asking for X number of staffing and being way off, we're just pausing. We'll see what that enrollment looks like. If we can't reallocate staffing, much like we did with this year, we did that first this year, we'll try to work through that again this year. But if, because of the staffing reductions that we're asking, if we aren't able to do that like we did this year, we'll come back to you and ask for that additional FTE if we need to.
Okay, and then my second question is, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you had to guess or give us an approximate number of actual bodies that will lose their employment, do you have an idea?
Well, the positions, the teaching FTEs is one FTE is one body, right? So that, you can see that in the number. I tried to share with you that the recess carers, there are about 40 part-time employees. Most of the other support staff positions are already vacant that we are reducing. And for instance, the administrative position, administrative assistant position I shared, there's one person, a body in a position. We're already holding other administrative assistant positions that come vacant in hopes of offering that to that person. So we're being very cognizant of what vacancies come up. We're also working very closely with our elementary principals to give options to our recess paras. So you remember that DESE offered the alternative substitute certification process. That's still available through February 28th. So those recess paras that might not have 60 hours could follow that alternative method and then be substitute certified, which would make them eligible for full-time special education para positions, substitute teaching positions. We also have cafeteria aide positions that are part-time if they'd like to shift into those. So we're working very closely with those people that are impacted in hopes of finding something that they might be interested in.
So it's just over 70 certified positions, and we already have 51 that we are aware of are not going to be seeking.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that we have to look by level, we have to look by certification, so it's not, we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, it's not one-to-one, I got that, but I just,
at the
it's
elementary
not like
level,
75 people are actually going to be without a job.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was looking
I can tell you, at the elementary level, I've had enough resignations and retirements that I have already absorbed the reductions through the attrition. I'm about halfway there at the middle school level, but that doesn't mean that the certifications match up. I won't know that until we get through all of the student enrollment and master schedule placements and things of that nature. And it's still early. I know from experience that even with the early incentive, the notification incentive, we don't get every resignation and retirement by January 15th. They continue to come in all the way through May 31st, June 1st. So we'll see some more attrition come forward. It will be my plea to anyone out there that will read my email tomorrow, if they know that they are going to retire and just haven't told us, to please do so. Let us give you the $500 incentive and know that you'll be saving a lot of stress and anxiety for those teachers that want to stay here as we try to find places. So that's why we want to extend that incentive in hopes that we can alleviate and reduce some of the stress early.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Quick question. I know this information has been shared out with our administrators who've then shared it out to their buildings. What sort of feedback have you had from that? Any substantial
Well, obviously it causes a lot of stress and anxiety. I think that
Reoccurring themes.
that is true, and a lot of stress and anxiety for us as well. We don't like being in this position, and we don't like making these decisions. We know that our staff is very valuable and important to us. We are a people-intense business, right? And we need everybody in those buildings to take care of kids. It's been hard work, and it's difficult to look at your friends, to look at people you built relationships with, and share that this is what we have to do, or what we need to do as a district. So lots of questions so far about just what the process will look like, when will I know, how will I know, just have been answering those as best as I can.
Could you remind everybody here about what percentage of our budget we actually do use on staffing of our overall budget?
Well, if I remember right, I always hear Kevin say it's about 80% of our budget that goes to salary and benefits. So we, again, are a very people-intense business. That's where our money moves to.
Anything else, board? Thank you. I know it's not easy. Okay, we will move on to an update from Dr. Hoven on inclusion and equity.
Yes, thank you. So in December, when I last met with the steering committee, we selected an equity audit that we were going to perform across the district. And where I'll report now is that we are in progress with that audit. The purpose of the audit is to help us really prioritize what steps we're going to take next. So, for example, we know that in many areas of equity around our district, we need work. We have work to do when it comes to staffing, when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to our policies, and we could name a lot of different areas. But rather than just grabbing one idea and going with it because it's our first idea, or rather than trying to tackle everything at once and not doing any of it well, the purpose of the audit is really to help us understand exactly what the status is for us in all of these different areas. So we're working with a research firm called EAB, and we're using their audit tool, which is compiled from best practices across the country. And so not only does it help us to assess our own practices, it includes links to best practices. And so in any category where we feel either A, we're not quite sure how to rate ourselves, or even once we do, what would we do next, we can go to real life examples from places that have shown to be effective. And so we're currently working through that audit. The next goal, so we're not meeting this month as a committee because we're working through that. What we'll do then is bring the results of that as we develop it. It's going to take a little while, but as we work through that, we will bring those results to our committee, who will then help us prioritize, whether it's our most glaring areas of need, whether it's things that seem to be the most time sensitive, or whether it's things that we know we're just ready to move forward on quickly so that we can start to take tangible action steps to move forward. So we're still in that sort of planning and assessing phase, but we're getting very close to being able to identify what our next steps are going to be in action, and that's where the work is getting really exciting. So I look forward to our next couple of meetings where we will really dig into our reality and start to get an understanding of where we're going to go next. And that's going to involve both short-term actions and long-term. This is a years-long process that we've got in front of us. This is not something that we're going to fix all at once. But it is exciting to be right on the edge of getting ready to move forward with actions.
Superintendent comments.
Yes, thank you. So my first comments, I really want to follow up to the staffing plan that Ms. Simpkins presented. Obviously, this comes with a lot of heavy work. And I really want to commend her and her department for the work that goes into this. Working with staff across the district, working with our union leadership, with our administrators. There's a lot here, and it's heavy. And we previewed this last June by understanding that this idea that we're a people-heavy business, people-heavy industry, means that when we have severe needs in our budget, that's where most of our budget goes. And so unfortunately, we have some hard decisions to make. So I just want to commend everyone involved. I know it's a hard process and it's an emotional process, and we don't take this lightly, nor does it come easy. And so, we're going to keep working through this together and keep working through this spring. And as many opportunities as we can find to keep people, we are looking forward to doing what we can there. And in the end, we're going to continue to move forward in a way that both supports our ability to educate kids effectively and also to viably move forward financially as a district. So it's a hard process. I want to thank those involved and thank them in advance for the work that is still ahead of us. The other update I want to give is actually around the vaccine developments. And so there's been a lot of questions about vaccine timing and availability and all of that. And preview is I don't have a lot of those answers, but I will tell you what we do know. So the state of Missouri has moved vaccines into different phases. So phase 1A was healthcare workers. And so our nurses have already had access to their first round of vaccines. So they were included with other healthcare workers in the region. And so we do have our first employees have already gotten their first dose. The rest of our staff is included in phase 1B. What we found out recently is that phase 1B has been split into 3 tiers. So tier 1 is first responders, tier 2 is individuals who are 65 and older and have other medical issues, and tier 3 includes education staff. So that would be all of our staff. Teachers, support staff, administrators, everyone is included in that. That phase 1B has actually already started, but it is all dependent on numbers of doses available and shipment dates and all of that. So while that tier is underway, we still can't say when it's going to happen. So we have shared with our staff a link to sign up with our county health department. Their current plan is to ask everyone to click on that link. And really, that's for the general public as well. Anyone can click on that link and you'll denote what your situation is. So if you're a first responder, they will then put you into that level 1. If you're 65 or older, they'll put you into level 2. And so even for our staff, even though they're level 3, if they qualify by age to be in level 2 or have a medical condition might put them in level 2, they would move up to that level. Anything we say about timing is really just going to be a guess. Optimistically, by the end of February, we hope that we are giving our first doses to our staff. And remember that it is 2 doses a month apart. So, in a good scenario, by the end of March, we've got a good number of our people vaccinated. But at this point, we really don't know the realities. And even the health department doesn't receive notice on how many vaccines they're going to get or when until really the day they get them. There's a lot of confidentiality around those shipments and things like that. And so it really is not possible for us to predict exactly when that will happen. Good news is it is happening. It is finally here, even though rollout isn't as quick as any of us want it to be. But it is good that we finally reached this stage. So what we have told our staff is when we have information, we will share it. We did send that information out just a couple of days ago. And if we get anything more specific, we'll certainly share that with you as the board and with our staff.
Board, any comments and requests?
So we do have an election coming up. Had we announced the candidates yet?
I don't know if it finally closed yesterday, but I don't think we publicly. No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, we can, if you like. Public, it closed, filing closed.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to announce the candidates the day after filing is, right?
We normally send something out on our website.
Perfect. Okay. So I would just like to invite anybody that is running to join us at our board meetings. We would love to have you so that you can learn more about what we do.
Dr. Hogan, we all hear about additional monies from the federal government, additional monies from the state. It's probably a Kevin question. Have we really heard anything concrete as far as monies coming to the district?
I can speak to it and then Kevin can tell me if I'm wrong. How about that? So no, we do see that the next allocation is roughly 4 times the size of the previous one, so it is a significant amount of money. If the state were to follow the same allocation process, we could stand to receive about 4 times as much as we did before. To pre-answer the next question, what if that does happen? Does that change our staffing plan? Does that change the rest of this conversation? And so what I'll speak to on that is a couple of things. One, that money comes with rules on what you can and cannot spend it on. And so it's not as if we can just say, hey, thanks for the money, let's fix all of our problems. Two is that it is one-time money. And so our current budget situation is that we were in a deficit last year and a further deficit this year. And so one-time money, while it might temporarily plug that hole, continuing to be on the deficit side of things will just continue to put us farther and farther, losing somewhere around 4% in our fund balance every single year or something like that. And so the one-time money will certainly help us to do some very good things, but it will not help us on our staffing issues that are necessary to right-size our budget moving forward.
I did have one other question. I noticed on our discipline report, are the kids just behaving extraordinarily well this year? It's significantly decreased.
Yeah, those numbers are accurate. I mean, that's a question that our academic team, when they review that, and kind of tell me if you want me to say this differently, but they've reviewed that too. Those numbers are accurate. Combination of lots of things. I mean, masks maybe help in a strange subdued behaviors kind of way. One very tangible thing is that unstructured congregation time is not really available anymore. So those times when groups of kids might, be in large groups for periods of time, those things are gone because of COVID. Those things help. Not our schools have less kids in them. And so you would expect at least a proportional reduction in that sense. And so a lot of factors have come together. Whether we can harness that magic to move forward in future years, we shall see.
Well, great job, kids. Keep it up.
I noticed that too on the bus. And I know a lot of our parents driving our kids through because our bus discipline is way down too.
Yeah, same thing. Less kids on buses, more spread out. Interactions just look different than they would in a typical school year.
Ms. McKenzie, you have anything you'd like to add? No? We appreciate you coming. Anything else, board? Okay, I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.